to be considerate and respectful to everyone we've got here tonight. We're going to go through a quick round of introductions, and then we will make a start on the presentation. So tonight here we've got myself and Emily as part of the communications team, and here with us is Kerry Allen, who is the Senior Project Manager for the Melbourne Greenway, and Laura, who will be supporting Kerry as her Assistant Project Manager tonight. So we've got a PowerPoint that we're going to run through tonight, and we'll take a look at the plans as well as part of our proposals. We'd like to have questions at the end if possible, please, but I do appreciate that some people might want to be concerned about forgetting their question, so feel free to put that in the chat if you would like, but we will get to the chat, and then anyone who would verbally like to ask a question, we will come to that at the end. We'd just ask that people raise their hands and we will then unmute from our side and you can kind of go ahead and ask your question. So we'll make a start on the PowerPoint now, I think.
Thank you, Izzy. Good evening, everybody. Thanks very much for giving up your time this evening. As Izzy said, we'd like to talk to you about sections of the Melbourne Greenway, and those sections are affecting the route through Melbourne Village, but also through Meldreth and the connecting link. We will also get into the detail about what it is that's changing, what's been revised, and also just providing a little bit of history about what was previously discussed. And then the process that we will go through in order to look to seek to deliver those changes, and actually how we're involving yourselves in that, as well as the next steps, so that you know how to get involved. And what that actually means, and then finally we'll take some questions. So hopefully we can answer your questions this evening. But if there is anything else that you have for us, please do let us know, and we'll make sure that our contact details are available at the end of the presentation. Before we do get into the detail of what's being amended, what I think it would be a good idea to do is just give a bit of a reminder about what the Melbourne Greenway is. So Izzy, if you can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the Melbourne Greenway, it's one of 12 greenways that the Greater Cambridge Partnership is seeking to deliver, and we work as part of Cambridgeshire County Council, South Cambridgeshire District Council and Cambridge City Council. We're trying to build a network of walking and cycling routes into the city, but also out to the surrounding villages. And what we want is a route that means that they can be used by all people of all abilities for both walking and cycling, wheeling, and where possible, we're looking to make provision for equestrian users. It's really important that we look to do this. We know that Cambridge City and South Cambs in particular are growing exponentially, and we need to find a way in order to support that growth, but also tackle the issues that we currently have associated with congestion on our highways. I think just to kind of describe what the Melbourne Greenway is, it will be useful if we move to the next slide. So if you can get to the next slide, please, Izzy. I mean, in essence, the Melbourne Greenway, it follows the A10. It starts at the Trumpington Meadows, continues down, and it has some little spurs that you can see where it pops into Harston, Shepworth, and makes that connecting loop into Meldreth. But as I say, for the most part, it does follow the A10 until it goes through Melbourne Village and then reconnects south of Melbourne Village back onto the A10, where it then connects to a route that will hopefully end with a bridge into Royston. So in terms of the route itself, it's providing a good end-to-end route. Next slide, please, Izzy. And in terms of the route itself, it's making use of the existing highway, but it's providing those enhancements. So it's widening footpaths out so we can create shared use paths connecting into existing infrastructure as well. So again, the key object is providing that safe end-to-end route. And it's trying to connect with other existing routes for walking and cycling. So as you can see here, connecting in with the public rights of way that are available. I've had to kind of superimpose for Melbourne and Meldreth, but certainly we see these greenways as providing a a point at the moment to connect in with the existing infrastructure, but also a purpose to build upon. So if there are future schemes that come forward, they will also obviously link into that. Next slide, please, Izzy. It's important just to revisit this point as well. There has been quite a lot of engagement work that's taken place with members of the public on the greenways, in particular the routes and what they look like. And certainly there has been 3 key consultation events that have taken place with members of the public and stakeholders, and that's been really effective in helping us to shape the proposals that we have today. And certainly we're continuing to respond to changes and things that kind of happen along the way, such as new development. You know, that's cropping up, so we have to bear that in mind. And indeed as well that, you know, there has to be a cut-off point. We can't keep making changes forever. But it's quite pertinent to just act as a reminder that, you know, there has been that engagement with members of the public, in particular looking at autumn 2022. You know, there's been quite a lot of feedback that we've picked up, in particular in terms of the arrangements through Melbourne itself. At the time, what we were proposing was a 20-mile-per-hour zone, which Melbourne now has. And with Meldreth, you know, that's something that's coming, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail in a moment. But I think it's just really key to point out to you, you know, that people did have their opinions on the 20-mile-per-hour zone, and actually, you know, some people felt that the 20-mile-per-hour zone on its own didn't go far enough and actually needed some physical measures that needed to be put in place in order to ensure that people maintain that speed throughout the village. The same goes with Meldreth, really, and again, it is about linking in with that existing infrastructure. Certainly already in Meldreth there is some traffic calming measures, and so it's trying to provide that level of consistency as well. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Thanks. See, so if you can bear with me here, because what I want to do is just describe to you about what the current or the previous design through Melbourne itself was going to do, and what the new design will do. And this is a little bit fiddly because we'll be talking about Melbourne and Meldreth in terms of the previous designs. We will take a look at those and then we will talk about the changes. I think ultimately what I want to get across this evening is that the focus is really on what we're proposing to do for traffic calming. The rest of the proposals, such as widening of footways, crossing points, will remain the same. So the focus really for this meeting, and indeed for the traffic regulation order, which is the form of consultation that we will use to allow you to have your say, really focuses on those traffic calming measures. But in terms of what was previously proposed, it was a series of enhancements to the existing footways into the village itself. So, for example, north of Melbourne village, we were wanting to extend that shared use path into the village. We became very much aware very quickly that we didn't have the space to continue that segregated pathway, so we had to move to something where we were putting people on carriageway, that mixed use arrangement, and again, you know, we had to think about what we did there to ensure that the speeds of vehicles remained low, and that actually people who were cycling felt safe to be on the carriageway. For the most part, certainly where the footpaths are concerned, there is that widening, and we've sought to widen that all the way through the village as well to ensure that we've made provision for people who are walking as well. There was a series of raised table crossings that we were providing through the village itself, and again that was giving people safer opportunities to connect to key facilities within the village itself, which is also a key part of the greenways, and the sense of providing that connectivity to local facilities. So we've tried to put those at sensible places where they connect with schools and employment, or where they connect with retail. What you will see is that in the previous proposals there was a lot of red coloured road surfacing, in particular at junctions along the High Street and through Station Road. And that's where the key changes that we want to make. Do you want to just go to the next slide, please, Izzy? And so for Meldreth, you know, it's very much the same, really, in the sense that we were looking to use red coloured road surfacing in order to curb speeds of vehicles. Again, the same thing applies, really, that we are looking very much at the traffic calming that we're looking to put in place within both the villages. For the most part, for the rest of the scheme, it pretty much stays the same, where we're looking to widen footways where we can, but that mixed use for the cyclists where they are on the carriageway will remain. And how that kind of translates a little bit more in terms of plans. If you just bear with me, I will ask Izzy to stop sharing and I will share my screen. Thank you. Okay, I think this is the one. Yeah. So if we start with Meldreth first, just to give a bit of an example, and this is always a bit difficult because the resolution is always very tricky to try to get the best resolution for everybody to see. But you'll see that there was this red surfacing, so there is no what we call physical traffic calming measures in place. These are known as psychological. And as you can see, it does make use of the red surfacing, and then we have road markings all the way through Station Road, which takes us up to the point where it meets to another part of Station Road, and that then obviously links off to the A10 and then up to Melbourne Village itself. Hopefully this will change. Hopefully you can see a different screen.
Yes,
yep, team's nodding their head. So this then brings us into Melbourne, into the High Street itself. Sorry, from this point here. And again, you can see that there is the use of the red of the red surfacing. And again, you know, there's certain points here where we've widened out the footpaths, but again, we are making use of that red use of that red surfacing. And then just coming from the northern section of Melbourne, as I say, again, it's pretty self-explanatory that there is the red surfacing that's used. So in actual fact, it was something that was applied all the way through on the southern section as well, all the way through Melbourne itself. Izzy, do you want to just share your screen again? And we can come back to these plans. I'm quite happy to when we come to the questions.
Okay. Hopefully we're back on the slides now. Brilliant. Yep. Okay.
If you can just go to the next slide. Okay, so in terms of the new proposals, ultimately what we're wanting to do is move away from the red surfacing, and we are looking to put the physical measures in place. And again, I'll make sure that that you have sight of that. And what we're wanting to do is put those physical measures in place to complement the 20-mile-per-hour zone that currently exists within Melbourne Village, but also the 20-mile-per-hour limit that will exist within Meldreth. And as I say, the rest of the proposals that we're looking to put in place will stay. So as I've said, that will mean that the widened surfacing and the crossings will stay. It will be purely those the movement from the red surfacing to the actual physical speed humps that we're looking to put in place. So what that actually looks like, and again, if you can bear with me, hopefully this will by magic change and we will hopefully see a plan. So again, if I take you back up to Meldreth itself, let me just improve the resolution here. So what we're looking at is actual physical measures, and that is in the form of raised tables and speed humps. So you'll see that previously in the original plan, we had this red surfacing. What we're wanting to do is replace that with a raised table. And again, what that does is that provides that physical measure to reduce the speed of vehicles. Coincidentally, it also ties in with the rest of the proposals for Station Road that goes all the way up to the primary school, where there is existing road humps. So again, it's providing that consistent message to keep speeds low, that actually there's other road users on the carriageway. What we've also wanted to do is put in a raised hump from Station Road to Whitecroft Road. We know that there are issues with speeding along the bridge itself. And so again, to complement that 20-mile-per-hour limit, we're looking to put in a speed hump there so that it does curb speeds. People can't then just pick up speed and kind of swing in here where you have pedestrians and people crossing to get from the village to the railway station or indeed to the school. Moving on, again, you know, we're looking to replace elements of the red surfacing with the speed humps, and that continues all the way along until we get to Station Road. Again, as I've just pointed out, links up to the A10 this way, and then up to Melbourne Village in the opposite direction, which you'll see hopefully on this page coming through now. Again, improving the footways is what we want to retain, and certainly we want to improve this area around the memorial, providing wider footpaths in places where they didn't exist. The crossing points all will remain the same as we originally proposed. What we want to do is try to provide a new crossing point here, which is what was originally proposed as part of the preliminary design, and certainly what we would have consulted on. Moving up through Melbourne Village itself, let me just double check that that's going to give us, yep, give us what we need. Again, I think you're getting the point, is that the red surfacing is going to be replaced by speed humps. And the same goes to the south. There are the side roads that we're looking to apply raised crossings there as well. So they're referred to as Copenhagen-style crossings. And what that does is, again, it reduces the speed of vehicles coming in, giving pedestrians the priority, which is set out in the highway code. Coming down through the village, again, it's more of the same with speed humps. And then, my apologies, it takes us back up to the north of Melbourne. And this is where we have the shared use path that comes in with the speed hump to the north. Again, footway improvements that we're looking to do, continuing down and linking in with the access point for the science park, providing a crossing point as well, a safe crossing point, so that people can get across to the science park itself. And then continuing down, you can see again that there is that repetition of the speed humps. We're trying to keep these about 100 meters apart, so it provides that consistency. And again, it reminds all road users, to keep speeds low. And oops, apologies. And in this area here, which links up to the college and also other key facilities, we've looked to provide a raised table. And then, sorry, going to the south of the village, again, it's more of the same, but the raised speed humps. It's providing, as I say, a reminder that curbs speeds are to be curbed, and it's giving more safety to people who are cycling, and indeed who are walking, who are wanting to cross, and indeed we've put new opportunities for people to do that. And then it links into a shared use path, which will then continue along the A10 until we get to Royston. I'm conscious that that's quite a quick whiz through in terms of the designs themselves. And as I said, I'm more than happy to come back to those and go through those a little bit more slowly with people if we need to when we get to the questions. But if we get through the rest of the presentation first. So Izzy, if you can reshare your screen for me. Thank you. And if you can go to the next slide. So I think one of the big questions is why we're implementing these different measures. And I think, as I've mentioned, we're very much aware that there are the new speed limit that's coming into force into Meldreth, but also there's the 20 mph speed zone that currently already exists in Melbourne village itself. In terms of effectiveness of the red surfacing, it is not deemed to be an effective way of keeping speeds low. So actually, we've had to relook at this and say, what is it that we need to do in order to ensure that that speeds do remain low, and indeed there has been many studies looking at 20 mph zones and the efficacy of them, and it comes as no surprise that without the physical measures in place, they're not very effective. Izzy, if you can just go to the next slide. So, as I say, there has been quite a few studies that have been done on that, and has proved that. And indeed, we're very much aware that the police themselves are also not a fan of 20 mph zones without the physical measures in place. I think there's another thing to consider here as well, which also affects place shaping for Melbourne and Meldreth. And we're very much aware that there are conservation areas around, in particular, Melbourne Village, and we want to try to make sure that aesthetically they remain pleasing and pretty, because what we're trying to create here is also places that people want to come and visit. And so actually the change in the red surfacing will help to improve the look of the village itself, rather than having red surfing everywhere. And that is really important, because when it comes to the maintenance of that red surfacing, that becomes very costly and expensive for the county council. And so what happens is that they will remove the red surfacing and replace it with black tarmac, and that's not something that we want. The greenways, we want to last as long as possible, and they want them to look good for as long as possible. So again, this is another consideration. In addition to that, Cambridge County Council have a policy where they only use red surfacing for segregated cycle tracks. It says in some shared use paths, but it's really important that we kind of stick to that uniformity, and that we are consistent in terms of giving the messages to people who are using the highways, so that they understand what they are and what we're not supposed to be doing. Next slide, please, Izzy. And I did mention this earlier about the need for physical speed reduction measures. As I say, there's been many studies that's been done on it, and conclusion is it's not self-enforcing. Without physical speed measures, it's not deemed effective by the police. And actually what they tell us is if you are putting in a 20-mile-per-hour zone, you really do need to be thinking about physical measures, because the police do not have the resource nor the time to be sat in one location checking that everybody is doing that speed. And we also need to remember that this is a walking and cycling scheme, and so there are guidelines and rules that we need to abide to when we are designing walking and cycling schemes. Local traffic note 120 tells us that actually where we are looking to put in a 20-mile-per-hour zone, that we should be putting in those physical measures. And actually psychologically, for people who cycle, that also gives them the confidence, because they know that they are, they're not there on their own. They have something physical which is curbing the speeds of the vehicles that are going past them. Next slide, please, Izzy. At this point, I'm going to give my voice a rest and let Laura explain to you about the traffic regulation order. This will be the process that we will use. What we've done is we've put out the plans to show the speed humps, and that is really your opportunity to comment on those. It has gone live as of today, but rather than stealing Laura's thunder, I'll let Laura just talk through the traffic regulation order and what that is.
No, thanks, Kerry. So yes, the traffic regulation order is a legal document that will be used to implement the traffic calming measures that Kerry has just discussed. As Kerry sort of said, that it sort of acts as our consultation period. It's 3 weeks long. It opened today, and any sort of responses or comments should be submitted by midnight on the 23rd of March. To note that we have set up inspection points in Melbourne and Meldreth Parish Council offices. So if you'd like to see a hard copy of the plans or a hard copy of this PowerPoint, that's where you'll be able to view them. And if you would like to comment on the TRO, you can visit the Melbourne Greenway website page on the GCP website. So that's where the information is available. And if you go to the next slide, please, Isabel. Thank you. And then in terms of next steps, so the TRO is advertised. So like I say, it's been advertised at the moment and it will be open for 3 weeks. The responses will be reviewed, and then eventually design amendments will be made and the final order published for the TRO. So yeah, back over to you, Kerry.
Thank you, Laura. So I think now is a good time to open the floor really for any questions. I can see that there's already a hand up from Councillor Hart. So please do let us know if you have a question, and if there has been any questions in the as I've been going through the presentation that's been put in the chat. I think Izzy and Emily will let me know. But Councillor Hart, do you want to start? You're on mute, Councillor Hart. Tricky. I don't think we can help you. I don't think we can take it off.
So I think we've unmuted Councillor Hart our side, and it just should be unmuting yourself, and then you should be able to ask your question. Okay, we'll give Councillor Hart a few minutes, but I can see we've got some questions in our Q&A. So Abby Williams has asked, are the raised crossings junctions the same as have been installed in Comberton?
These will be flat top raised. So the crossings, it's important to get this right, between the crossings and the speed humps. So the speed humps will be sinusoidal ramped flat top, sorry, that's a lot, speed humps. the crossings themselves, they should be the same as what we're using on the other greenways. So again, you know, they will be a sinusoidal ramp and a flat top, but they will be obviously of a bigger kind of magnitude than the speed humps themselves, primarily because they are, you know, they're acting as a crossing point across all of the junctions. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Kerry. So we have just got a further follow-up question from Abby in the Q&A as well. So are we okay to share a link to the recording via our website? Yes, we would be more than happy to do that, so we can kind of share a direct link once we've uploaded to YouTube tomorrow, so that can kind of be shared through any community forums or pages that you have access to. Councillor Hart, I just was typing a message back, but I'm happy to kind of cover it off here. So all participants are muted our side, but we have enabled your mic from our side, so it should be a case of enabling the mic your side, but it could, you know, I won't rule out that there could be some IT gremlins there. So we might just see if we can circle back to you, but I'm conscious I thought I'd seen another raised hand, so I'm not sure if there was any other questions that anyone might want to ask. We'll give people a few minutes just to type some things. Adam, so I think we'll just unmute you our side, Adam, and then if you go ahead and see if you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I partly wanted to ask a question just to see if it's working with the microphone, and it is. So could you talk briefly about where Station Road from Meldreth comes out into the T-junction and then becomes Station Road into Melbourne, and what the arrangements for, I think, is it a pedestrian crossing are there? They may be old proposals and you haven't covered it for that reason, but I thought it sort of makes sense to briefly cover it because it ties together with the new footpath to the train station, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, I think it's just worth spending 2 minutes on that junction.
Sure, of course. Let me just bring that up. So, Adam, do you mean where Station Road comes into Melbourne High Street? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean the T-junction of Station Road itself, so nearer the A10, where the new footpath comes out from the train station.
Yep, got it. So, with me. Let's bring that up now. Yeah. So this is right. Way through. Yeah. Okay. I have that now, Adam. So at this point here, what we're looking to do, so see the 20 mph limit will start. It comes into Station Road. You have the raised cable here. The link into the Meldreth link is here. It says link proposal, but obviously we already have that now. So it will provide that crossing point. This here is a shared use path. So what that means in terms of coming from Station Road is that you will slip onto the shared use path, and then you can use the parallel crossing. So this itself, just to give you a bit more of a look at that, is it's.
Sorry if I interrupted. Is there a pedestrian crossing there?
It is. So it will be a pedestrian crossing. So we refer to them as a parallel crossing, or they're known as a tiger crossing. And what it does is it segregates pedestrians and cyclists. So you can see that cyclists are here and the pedestrians are here. So as a cyclist, if you're using it, this is the shared use path. So this will be wide enough for pedestrian and cyclists. They will slip on here. The cyclists will use this point here. Pedestrians will use this point here. So that's the arrangement that will then connect in with the Meldreth link. In terms of, and I'm not sure if this is what you're asking for, Adam, so apologies if I'm going off tangents, but in terms of then how that looks going up to the bridge and actually going around the other side to the front of the station, we will have a speed hump here, and then it will continue all the way along until all the way along Station Road itself. So again, it's kind of reducing speed up towards the bridge, and then over the bridge, again coming to this point here, because we're aware that this is an area where there's people crossing. The provision here isn't great at the moment, so as I said, that there will be a raised there'll be a raised speed hump here, and then a raised table at this point here, just to improve the crossing points here of getting people across the road. Coincidentally, it's important to also point out that there currently is double yellow lines along some of the section along here, but we're looking to infill that with double yellow lines as well, so we can keep visibility on this section, so that people can see where to cross, and also motorised vehicles that can fully see where there are people milling around or crossing in this area. Does that answer the question, Adam?
Yes. Can I ask a very quick follow-up?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the speed humps. Could you just describe them in a bit more detail? And I think what I have in mind in particular is I think the standards have changed. And for example, at the Tesco car park in Royston, I believe they've recently changed the speed hump, and they've actually become much less aggressive from a driver's point of view.
Yeah, so what we're looking at providing is they'll be 75 millimeters high. They will be they will cover the width of the carriageway. So we've moved away from previous schemes where we would have a speed cushion that would have, you know, space either side. What all that does is that means that vehicles just position themselves, motorists position themselves either side of the gaps, and it has no effect at all. So we're looking for those to be the complete width of the carriageway. As I said, they will be flat topped but sinusoidal ramped, and that's really important because it gives a smoother transition up and over the speed humps. They're aggressive enough to reduce the speed of the vehicle, but not to the point where, you know, you're going to lose the front of your car. It is that constant, you know, acts as a constant reminder and a physical barrier to say, you know, you need to slow down. And as I say, with that 100-meter spacing that we're looking to achieve, it means that it's a consistent thing rather than vehicles being able to get over the speed hump and then just get up speed. So it's just trying to make sure that they're maintaining that 20 mile per hour speed. Is that helpful, or was there anything further you need from that, Adam?
That's great. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm conscious I want to come back to Councillor Hart. I mean, I've noted that you have said in the chat that you missed the view of the junction of Rose Lane and High Street. So Kerry, if you could just bring that up. Of
course. Yeah.
But Emily, if we make sure Councillor Hart's mic is enabled our side, do you want to try again your side, Councillor Hart? No, I'm still not hearing anything. So Kerry, Councillor Hart has put something in the chat, so I'll just read that out. So please, can you confirm speed reduction arrangements at this junction? She'd like to declare an interest, as she does live on the corner, but is very happy for speeds to be reduced, as they may stop further accidents when vehicles crash into the corner of their house. Also seems perfectly reasonable to enforce a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit through villages using physical methods, in her opinion. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Right, now I'm in the, sorry, and my apologies. It's very difficult to try to get this into a way that sort of makes sense. But Rose, thought it was down here.
I think you have it, Kerry.
Do I? Okay. Thank you. Oh, yep, Rose Lane, right there.
Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of Rose Lane, Councillor Hart, there will be a raised speed hump to the north of Rose Lane, and then also one to the south. Also, if I can zoom in a bit more, in terms of the approach to Rose Lane as well, what we're wanting to do there is a physical measure. It's more a different use of surfacing to slow vehicles down coming through. So you know that different use of surfacing, again, it sort of acts as a reminder to them that this is a continuation of the footway, and to take care. I believe, just bear with me. Yeah, it looks like we're double. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to pull out the footway there just ever so slightly, and what that does is that just tightens the junction as well, so it prevents vehicles just being able to kind of swing in. So again, it's just providing that extra kind of protective measure for people who are walking. Does that answer the question, Councillor Hart? If there's anything further, please do let me know.
Thank you, Kerry. So while we just wait to hear back from Councillor Hart, I can see that Councillor van der Ven has got her hand raised. So if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question, Councillor van der Ven.
Hi, thank you. I've got three, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll read them all out. The first one is, I wondered if we could focus just again on High Street, Melbourne, from the traffic lights toward Back Lane. I guess that's the southern.
Yep, section. Yep.
My question there is around the positioning of the speed humps, and where a speed hump is placed. I presume there would be a restriction on parking, on-street parking, in the vicinity of the speed hump. That's just a question about the reminder of the positioning. It's a very, as you know, it's a very narrow stretch of the high street, and there is quite a bit of on-street parking. So I just wondered how that, any restrictions there, how far the restrictions go, if we just get a sense of that. Do you want me to ask my other two questions first, or wait?
So
I'll
deal with this one, and then we'll, just in case there's a follow-up on what I say. But
okay.
yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. So I think certainly where the speed humps are being placed, we're trying to make sure that they are away from, certainly from old buildings, and we're very much aware that certainly on the southern section, you know, on-street parking is a must, because there aren't any alternatives. In terms of the raised speed humps themselves, vehicles are permitted to park on the raised speed humps. So and we certainly do not have plans to put any double yellow lines or restrict any parking on those. They can continue to park on those as they currently do on the highway. So that shouldn't cause any sort of displacement of vehicles. They should still be able to do that as they normally do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then the next question is about the evidence of the impact of speed humps on speed reduction. I mean, I guess we know kind of in general terms that the introduction of a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit tends to bring speeds down a bit. And I just, if you could give us a sense of what we might expect in terms of further reduction what's a sort of a reasonable expectation?
Yep. So certainly the research that was done, it was 2023, and it was the Parliamentary Advisory Council for Traffic Traffic Safety. And what they did is they did some comparisons between looking at those areas where 20 mile per hour limits and zones were being used, and then also then combining those where they had a 20 mile per hour zone and limit with the physical measures in place. We'll make sure that we put it up on the GCP website so that it can be linked to. But what they found is that actually with 20 mile per hour zones on their own without physical measures, they tended to reduce the speed by 1 or 2 miles per hour. It wasn't anything that was that dramatic. Whereas with physical measures themselves, you are forced to stick to the speed limit, because obviously the physical measure is there. So if you're wanting, unless somebody really wants to take their car over it at 30 or 40 miles per hour, which means that they really aren't caring about their vehicle, let alone anybody else. I think that what they were finding is that you were getting around about like over a 90% compliance with the speed limit. I know that certainly with the 20 mile per hour zone in Melbourne that has had some effect. But looking at the results that have been sent over, where previous traffic speeds have been captured, there still is quite a big percentage where there is still a non-compliance. So certainly yes, with the speed humps, you are forcing people into that compliance, because as I say, unless you want to really do some damage to your suspension on your vehicle, and that would be through consistent high speed going over speed hump after speed hump, then it is a better option. It will ensure that 20 mile per hour compliance is fulfilled, which is what we want. Does that answer the question, Susan?
Yeah, no, that's great. If you can post that information on the website. Thank you. And then the final question is about publicity of the traffic regulation order consultation. Will you, I know the parish councils are set up to reinforce the consultation, but will the GCP website have there's a link there that we can link to, so you're providing all the information in one place?
Yes. So we will ensure that the link to the traffic regulation orders and how to respond is all available from the GCP website. And it's important to note that people can respond via email or in writing. And actually, if people do need some assistance with trying to understand the plans, then there is a telephone number there as well, where somebody can walk them through the plans. And as well, there will be the inspection points, just as a reminder, at Melbourne Parish Council offices, but also Meldreth Parish Council offices for people who want to see the physical, hard copies of the plans. And the team will make themselves available to assist people if they want to get hold of copies of things, or they need to understand things a little bit more. As said, this is a 21-day consultation, so it does give people the opportunity to take a look at the plans, have a look at where things are being placed and how that kind of sits for them, and to make their responses. But yes, hopefully that answered your question, Susan. We will make sure that everything is available on the GCP website, so people have just one place to go.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor van der Ven. And just to kind of echo Carrie's comments, the link to the TRO is already on the Melbourne Greenway page, as are the plans. So anyone is welcome to kind of go there. As Carrie's kind of brought them up tonight, you'll be able to zoom in as large as you kind of want to view the plans to take closer looks at any specific areas you may want to take a particular look at, or if you just like to kind of look generally at the proposals in a little bit more detail tonight, that's all available online already for people to do so. I have also just popped a quick link to the TRO in the chat as well, if anyone just wants a quick direct link to take a look there now. we appreciate that, you know, there is a lot kind of to take in with these sort of plans. So as Kerry said, if, you know, other questions kind of occur to you over the next sort of 3-week period, please do get in touch with us via email or via phone call, and we're happy to kind of pick up any of the questions, or if there's anything that is a little bit confusing. We appreciate there's a lot of detail in these plans. We're also happy to kind of cover those off as well. I can see we have got another question in the chat, Kerry. So from Sashi, how will the works be staggered if this goes through? What is the proposed length of works?
That's a great question. Certainly in terms of when we would like to start works, we would like to start works in 2026. We're also conscious that there's a number of other things that are going on. So where possible, we will ensure that our scheme marries up with any other highway scheme that's happening in the area, so that we don't have this scenario where you know, one sets of work start and then, you know, we come in a couple of weeks later and cause mayhem all over again. In terms of the duration, I can't really put a firm timescale on that at the moment, but what I will say is that we will look to address this in phases, so that we're not, you know, creating chaos over the whole of Melbourne High Street. It feels sensible that we would maybe start you know, in either Meldreth or Melbourne, you know, that the one would follow the other. But as I say, and as I want to stress, those will be in phases. So it will be small sections that we will do, and then we will continue moving up or down, you know, the high street, however, you know, it seems right to do. But yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of when we get to that point of construction, we'll ensure again that residents are made aware. And I'm really keen that our team who will be constructing does a walkover of the site and speaks to all the stakeholders, and that we get as much knowledge as we possibly can, because we really do want to do a good job in the villages here.
Wonderful, thank you, Kerry. And Sashi said thank you as well. So we have still got plenty of time tonight. If anyone else does want us to take a look at any particular sections on the plans, or any particular other questions that maybe we haven't covered tonight, we've got plenty of time still if anyone would like to pop something in the chat with Q&A, or alternatively raise their hand. What I will just do, in case anyone else wants to be typing anything out, I will just bring up this page again, which does have our email address on it. This information is also all available on our website as well, but our email is hello@greatercambridge.org.uk. Alternatively, you're welcome to get in touch with us calling 01223 699906, and we would be happy to answer any further questions if there is anything that pops up after tonight over the next kind of 3 weeks. I can see that we have got another question in the chat from Councillor Hart, so I will just read that out. Is it a problem that many vehicles do U-turns at the junction of Rose Lane and High Street? Have we factored that one in, Kerry?
We haven't. We're aware that there are lots of vehicles doing a U-turn. I mean, I guess, you know, that sounds like that can be a bit of a nuisance. In terms of of what we're doing on that section, we're looking to put in, as I say, the different material, but also tightening the junction slightly. So if anything, I would suggest that would act as a deterrent to people doing that. Does that answer the question, Councillor Hart?
So Councillor Hart said she's also thinking of cyclist safety. So I think in terms of cars doing that manoeuvre and sort of the risk that poses to cyclists.
Terence, sounds good. Yeah, we've got a thumbs up. Yeah, I think where possible we'll be looking to tighten those junctions. And as I said, you know, admittedly it is to stop vehicles swinging in, but yeah, I mean, you know, a tighter junction will act as a deterrent. Yeah, you definitely don't want people using that as a way of turning around.
Thanks, Kerry. And Sashi's also echoed kind of what Councillor Hart's saying. So back lane is also a known area for that one.
Okay, we'll definitely bear that in mind though as well. As I say, you know, we're still we don't want to be designing forever, but we will definitely take another look at that back lane as
Wonderful.
Coach say. Okay.
Thank you, Kerry. I can see Sashi is just typing something, so we'll just give her a few more minutes. Oh, brilliant. Councillor Hart said thank you. While we just wait for a moment, Councillor van der Ven, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's all Sally Ann reminded me of another question. Sorry, it's your fault, Sally Ann. So leaving Melbourne along Station Road, bound for the new link path. It's fairly straightforward if you're on foot on the pavement, but if you're on a bike, you're going to need to make a right turn. If you're on a bike in the road, you're going to need to make a right turn into that link path. You have to do it already.
Back up.
So we're getting used to doing that now. Could you just you said some interesting things about how that configuration is going to look, because there's going to be a new crossing point. I forget what it was called, a tiger crossing point, I think.
It's it's known as a parallel or a tiger crossing. We like to use animals to describe most things on the highway. So you mean this section here, Susan? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm imagining the maneuver from coming out of Melbourne, so not Meldreth, but Melbourne Station Road, wanting to take the new link path to Meldreth Station.
Yep.
And there'll be that crossing point there, pedestrian crossing point. But that's not signalized.
No. It will act as as a conventional zebra crossing. So it will have beacons, it will have the flashing beacons, and bearing in mind as well, and my apologies that you can't see this so clearly, so let me make this a bit clearer. Hopefully you can see these two arrows here and here, and that indicates this is a raised crossing. So this crossing here will be raised, so it means actually that the vehicles, they will have to slow their speed in order to get up onto the tabletop. So that acts as the physical measure in order to to reduce the speed. You could possibly argue that could be brought back a little bit, actually, so that you have a bit more of a bit more of a warning as a driver coming up. And then having some space there, and then there's the crossing. So I can speak to the team about that, why that's kind of configured like that. I mean, certainly coming from this side again, as a motorized user, you would need to reduce your speed because there is that's where the hump kind of rises. So although there isn't signals here, you do have the protection that this is on a tabletop, and it will work as a conventional zebra crossing, but this is just known as a parallel crossing, basically.
Okay, I guess that's really, really helpful, thank you. And I'm thinking about the current new entrance to the new path, which sits next to a private stretch of tarmac to a private field. We've got, and so there's a lot of tarmac there, and I'm just there's a few teething issues there in terms of perception of what that tarmac is. It's not for cars to turn around in. So I'm just wondering if this configuration of the tabletop is going to help clarify the fact that the entrance to the greenway is not for cars.
Yes, I think it will help to clarify that. I mean, I think we've previously discussed about the wide section to Meldreth Link, and the reason why it's wide is one, it's to create that space for people who are walking and cycling, but also we've not put any kind of physical measure there, because it also then allows maintenance vehicles to get down there and do the maintenance. But I think, you know, as we look at this area again, we would certainly be looking to put in maybe a drop down bollard here. With this, what we should be doing, I mean, there will be, you know, curved area. It will have to be dropped here for access anyway. But I think with the raised table and with the road markings, it will make it very clear that, you know, this is not part of the carriageway. So I think with the raised table, it will actually make that clearer than perhaps what it looks like at the moment.
Okay, that's encouraging. So, and if during the TRO consultation period, there are some small good ideas that come forward about tricky areas like this, and they're not very significant, they may be adopted, if I understand correctly.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, we can look at things. I wouldn't want to encourage, because we have gone through the previous consultation, so we can't make changes to this too much.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying, Susan. I think we have to kind of strike a balance, but certainly if there are areas that you feel the design doesn't quite, you know, cut it. I mean, it might be that actually just spacing here isn't true to reality. It looks a little close to me. Perhaps we might tweak this a little bit, but I wouldn't want to invite people to, you know, get us to start again. Otherwise, we're never going to get to the point of completion. And I know that's not what you're asking. So I think within reason, if there's areas of concern, we can definitely look at those.
Thank you. That makes sense. I understand. Yeah, this is the result of a long period of discussion. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But if things are you know, still aren't quite there, then, you know, we'll definitely look at them. So as I've said, Back Lane and Rose Lane were two areas that we'll pick up and look at.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Kerry and Councillor van der Ven. So Sashi's got a question in the chat here, Kerry. So will Back Lane changes affect the ambulance service?
So the reason why we've gone for the flat top sinusoidal ramped speed humps is because they are more comfortable for ambulances and you know, for those sort of narrow axle vehicles as well. The reason why we've gone for those is that Melbourne Village is on a bus route, so it is for the comfort of ambulances and of buses. So the answer is yes, basically.
Thank you, Kerry. I can see that Councillor van der Ven's still got her hand up, but I suspect that could be a legacy hand. So yeah, not to worry. Adam, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure, seeing that we've got the time. So still on the part of the plan that you had up a moment ago.
Yes,
on
put that back up.
Yeah. So as a cyclist, if you're coming out of Melbourne and you're taking that right turn, you'll be going up onto the table and then taking the right turn. I'm just curious, I mean, maybe it's just a highway code that I don't know, but are you then meant to turn into part of the Tiger crossing to get across the other lane? Or how are you technically as a cyclist meant to take that right turn into the new path to the station? And I guess I'm asking because I have about 50 colleagues who do that turn every evening. Yeah,
so Adam, you might just need to assist me a little bit here. So when you say that right turn, do you mean coming out of here and then coming down? Is that what you mean? Or when you're saying, so I'm assuming you're going from Station Road, doesn't help that it's both Station Road, does it really? But from Station Road, turning right onto Station Road into...
No, sorry, I mean when you're coming out of Melbourne on Station Road. So not out of Meldreth, out of Melbourne. Yeah, so you're coming along there, right? Oh.
So coming out of Melbourne onto Station Road, not Meldreth.
Not Meldreth, no, not Meldreth. Okay. So you're coming out of Melbourne, and you're
going
along.
Have I gone too far? Was I in the right place to begin with?
You were in the right place to begin with, yes.
Sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay.
So coming
So you can
out
get
of Melbourne.
on the shared use path, Kerry, you turn left, if I've got this correct, Adam, and then to go on to the crossing, you have to make a right turn.
I was thinking when you
Yep.
when you were saying right, I was thinking, are you doing this movement? But do you mean this movement? Is that what you mean, Adam?
Yeah. So I'm assuming the road coming out of Melbourne is called Station Road as well. Is that correct, or has that got a different name?
No, that's called Station Road. So
Yeah.
so
you're
the yes, sorry, I see what you're saying. So yep, Station Road.
You're coming out of Melbourne on Station Road. You will
Yep.
then, as you're getting close to the T intersection, be going up onto the raised table.
Yes.
You will be traveling along the raised table until you get to just before where the pedestrian crossing is, and also the bicycle crossing, the Tiger crossing. So I'm just
Yep.
asking, how are you then meant to make that right turn to get onto the shared use path? Are you meant to go onto the Tiger crossing, or are you at that point still treated as a cyclist using the road who's just doing a right turn? Because if you're using the Tiger crossing, presumably you have priority, whereas if you're just turning as an ordinary cyclist, you don't have priority over oncoming traffic.
So so you should have priority over oncoming traffic, because it should work in exactly the same way as a zebra crossing. I mean, obviously you've got to make sure that it's clear, but the the onus is also on motorists to ensure that they are that they're slowing and that they're looking out for you. I mean, obviously, if you're driving along here and you see a cyclist, you're not sure whether they're going to continue or whether they're going to cross. That's where you're expecting the motorist to be vigilant, but also they will have to slow their speed on approach to the zebra crossing itself. As a cyclist, if you're, and I'm sorry, Adam, if I'm not understanding this at all, but if you're coming from here and you're wanting to cross, then by all means you can make use of the crossing itself, and then continue on your way to where you'll kind of rejoin the carriageway, or you can. If you want to, you can continue on. You can slip off and you can make this movement. I think this measure is really in place for people who who need that extra bit of safety and support in order to get them to cross from one side of the road to the other. Does that help? Am I still not getting it? If not, we can pick it up as a separate. Yeah,
we can pick it up. Yeah.
Wonderful. What might just be helpful as well, given we've just been looking at this crossing, I might just pull up a similar example, because this is a real life example that we've got. So this is as part of the Horningsea Greenway. So this is essentially kind of similar, not identical, but similar design to kind of what Kerry's just been showing up on the maps. So hopefully that gives a little bit more clarity to the maps. But I have also seen that Abby has put something within the Q&A function. So in terms of when the hard copies will be available to, I think that's Melbourne Parish Council. So we expect them to arrive this week. So I'd be kind of preempting the postal service if I were to put it on an exact date. But I would like to think they would be with the Parish Council by the middle of this week. But by all means, if there are any concerns, or you're worried that there might be a delay, please do get in touch with us and we can kind of follow that up, or we can always look to get plans down there if they seem to be delayed in any way. We can take a look at alternative options to make sure they get to you this week. Okay, I can't see anything else in the chat, and I'm just going to check Q&As, but I think that seems to be okay. We have still got plenty of time, and I think I've noticed we might have a couple new joiners to the call. So by all means, if you'd like to ask your questions, or if there's any particular areas of concern that you may be joined tonight with that you'd like to kind of discuss and ask the team, we'd be more than happy to cover that off. You can either put something in the chat or use our Q&A function. Alternatively, you can raise your hand and you can verbally ask your question as well. So we're more than happy to answer any other questions.
Just a reminder to those who have joined that the presentation is recorded and it will be made available on the GCP website. That also will set out how you can respond to the TRO, but also how you can get in touch if you need some further information.
Thank you, Kerry. So we'll wait a few more minutes, but while we do that, as I say, if there is anyone that you know of tonight who couldn't attend, please do let them know that this, as Kerry said, this meeting has been recorded, so they'll be able to access this information from tomorrow via our YouTube channel, alternatively also via our website. We've got information relating to the plans that were presented there tonight, so you'll be able to take a look at those and make sure you've had a good look at those and get in touch with us if you have any further questions or anything you'd like a bit more clarity on. This PowerPoint will also be available for collection in hard copy along with the plans if that is something you would prefer. So they will be at Melbourne and Meldreth Parish Council offices. So by all means you're welcome to go and collect a copy of our proposals there. And then get in touch with us either via email or via chat. The TRO is live from today, so we've got a link to that in the chat, and that link is also displayed on our website as well for anyone who kind of wants quick access. Again, they can kind of submit their feedback via email, or alternatively they can get in touch via telephone, and we can kind of look at alternative arrangements if email isn't possible. I'm just going to come back and see if we've got any more questions. I'm not seeing anything, but any of my colleagues on the call, if they are noticing anything else that's come in, please do. Oh, yes, Christine, I think so I've enabled your mic. If you just unmute yourself your side, we're more than happy for you to answer your question.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, got there. Good. Yeah, we do have some questions. We live in Meldreth at North End, and the conditions of the road here are pretty appalling. And at the moment, we suffer badly from vehicles with trailers and also partly laden vans, where the undulations in the road cause quite a bit of noise. There's kind of rattling of ladders and all the loose equipment that are in the back of trailers, or the link between the trailer and the vehicle that's driven. I think that if you consider putting any form of ramps or traffic calming measures, this can actually make it even worse. And I really can't see that it's going to help, because traffic travels through this end of the village unbelievably fast. And I'm talking seriously, I'm talking about 40-50 miles an hour at least.
Yeah.
So putting a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, I don't think it's going to achieve what your objective is. That coupled with the fact that the condition of the road is pretty appalling anyhow. So I'm a bit concerned that money's being spent in the wrong place.
So thank you for that. It'd be really good for me to understand whereabouts. If you're not comfortable saying it on here, please do reach out to us and just let us know so we can look at that in a little bit more detail. I mean, where possible with the scheme, what we want to do is try to ensure that if there are any highway surfacing works, that they can happen at the same time. I hear your point about the noise. Generally, though, you've sort of said yourself that the vehicles are running at between 40 and 50 miles per hour. Hence the reason why you're getting quite a lot of noise. I mean, yes, I'd be wrong if I didn't say that the road humps don't cause noise, but actually you're reducing the speed, so the rattling should be much less than perhaps what you're experiencing now. I have spent a lot of my time.
Yeah, I think your situation is, to a degree, you're right. But what happens is you get vehicles reducing speeds, so there's deacceleration and sometimes braking. They then have to accelerate again between there and the next speed bump. And I think the pollution levels will probably be higher as well because vehicles are deaccelerating and accelerating, which is also a negative as far as I'm concerned.
So the reason why we've spaced them 100 meters apart is to kind of avoid that, you know, we've got over the first speed hump, now we can put our foot down, we're going to like hit the brakes for the next speed hump. So that's why we've gone for the duration that we've gone for, and actually the spacing of the speed hump. So it's ensuring that people are maintaining that all the way through, rather than having this process where they're speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. I mean, just to go back to the point really about the speed humps. I mean, I've spent probably more time than I should admit, you know, hanging around speed humps, listening to the noise that comes from them, and actually when they're maintaining a slow speed of 20-mile-per-hour speed, the noise that actually is generated by them is not very high at all. It's, if anything, you know, it's about as loud as a two people having a conversation on the street. So yes, I do understand your concerns, and as I said, if you're not comfortable explaining to me sort of where exactly it is that you are, please do reach out to us, and we'll have a look at that. But certainly the idea is to firstly take the speed out. If we take the speed down, then that should reduce the noise. Where there is poor surfacing, of course, we will look to pick that up as part of the delivery of the scheme, and do what we can, because as we've said, we're conscious that this is a change, and I want to, you know, ensure that we are doing everything that we can to make people feel comfortable with this. But we are certainly where the speed humps now are very different to the types of speed humps that were perhaps put in the late 90s and early 2000, where they were, you know, really quite high, and you know, they would have caused a lot of noise. We've sort of moved on since that point.
Yeah, well, I guess that there was a lot of damage to vehicle suspension as well. But the other area I have a concern really relates to, if you take Melbourne as an example, where the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit has been introduced, it's brought into the village far too early. It kind of the Falmere Road turning, it starts almost up there, so there's almost no houses. And I think that introducing speed limits too early actually dilutes the effects of them where they are needed.
Perhaps
so
by
schools and hospitals and major turnings and things like that, there is a need for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. But introducing it too early into the village, people choose to ignore it.
Noted, and again, that's why we've kind of talked about the physical measures really, and why there is a need for those. Again, to come back to your point about the impact on suspension, if the vehicle is maintaining at that 20-mile-per-hour limit as it's going over the hump, then there shouldn't be a problem with that. But yeah, I mean, I take your point about, you know, you're starting the 20-mile-per-hour zone in Meldreth. That already exists. It was put in place in 2023. From our perspective.
You mean Melbourne?
In Melbourne, it was put in place in 2023.
Yeah,
in Meldreth itself, it's coming into force, I believe, this year. So you know, take your point about if it's too big, people tend to ignore it. That's why, you know, really we're trying to focus the traffic calming in areas where they need to be focused. So I do get your point that it kind of dilutes it, and that's why really what we've looked at is Station Road as the area for where those speed humps will be, and indeed that links with the rest of Station Road all the way up to the Meldreth Primary School, where there currently is measures already in place, speed humps in place. So it's providing that kind of consistent link. It's going all the way up to the railway station and then connecting up with the village in Melbourne.
The other thing that would be interesting, in the interest of saving money, because I know we're all trying to do that at the moment, is to actually see how effective this 20-mile-an-hour speed limit has been in Melbourne. Since it's been introduced, you have speed cameras which are measuring, and I guess you can get statistics from. So since, if you kind of do it before and after, how do those speeds compare? So now that we have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit coming in from Frog End's direction into Melbourne, how do those statistics read now? after maybe a year of having had a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit into Melbourne. How effective is the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit?
Yeah, and I believe, I mean, we have spoken to Parish Council about that, and they have that there is some information that has been captured, and it does show that the 20-mile-per-hour zone in Melbourne has had some effect. You know, wouldn't be truthful to say that it hasn't. I think what we're trying to do here is two things. We're trying to ensure compliance with the 20-mile-per-hour zone, but we're also moving cyclists onto the carriageway, and so what we're trying to do is make sure that we're providing a safe space for everybody to be using the carriageways, you know, safe and fair space for everybody to be using the carriageway. So it's not just about keeping the speeds down, but you know, ultimately that is the purpose of the speed humps. It's also providing, you know, a safer space for people to be cycling on the carriageway.
I think that Susan van der Ven has already done an excellent job in introducing a cycle path all the way down there. So there shouldn't be any cyclists crossing the carriageway. At great expense, we have a lovely cycleway, which is also very pleasant to walk along. As to the speeds, you know, you're guessing at what speed reductions has been, or how effective the speed limits have been after the introduction of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit into Melbourne. And I think it'd be quite interesting to see some actual figures, you know, rather than just yes, it's been effective. That could mean effectively good or effectively bad.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and most definitely, you know, it would have had an effect, and it would have brought some of the speeds down. But you're not going to achieve, you know, full compliancy. There are still people that are going to kind of drive through, and actually, the more that people become familiar, I suppose, with the area, the more that they become familiar with the 20-mile-per-hour zone, they tend to become more complacent. So people do become quite desensitized to it after a period of time, and so it doesn't prove to be effective. And indeed, you know, what we will do is we'll share a link to research that has actually looked at the efficacy of 20-mile-per-hour zones versus those 20-mile-per-hour zones that have the physical, you know, the speed humps in place.
Thank you.
In Meldreth, to have statistical information, we have a speed awareness team, and they keep statistics from the monitors that are along Station Road and things. So we know roughly what the average speeds of vehicles travelling down places like Fenny Lane. So I guess that same information would be also available from similar devices in Melbourne. So it would be interesting to make a comparison. So before we start spending an awful lot of money on speed humps and new signage and things like that, we need to assess whether it's going to be effective and whether it's going to be a worthwhile spend. Because I know at the moment for money.
Yeah, we know that it will be effective. We know 100% that it will be effective because
you introduced it.
We do because it will be a physical measure that will be within the highway. So we know that if you have nothing in the highway, then you won't have compliancy. If you do have something in the highway, then you will have compliancy. So we know that the speed humps will be effective. But I think it just goes back to previous comment that I made, that it's not just about providing a route of reducing the speed of vehicles. It's also about providing safer spaces for people to be cycling on the highway and to be crossing the highway. I totally agree with the point that you made about the fantastic you know, shared use path and the link into Melbourne, and certainly, you know, the Meldreth link is another example of where you're providing a shared use path for people to walk and cycle. But unfortunately, we can't fully segregate cyclists all the time. So we need to have a mechanism of providing a safe space for them as well. And that's where the speed humps also come in.
Thank you, Kerry. I'm just going to come to Susan for a moment, because I suspect she might want to come in on this conversation. If it's another point, Susan, we can come back to you. But I know you've got your hand up, and Adam, I'm aware yours is too. So Susan, was this related to the matter we're talking about now?
Yeah, but I'll be really quick because I know we're almost out of time. Just to clarify, the speed humps in Meldreth go only as far as the route.
Oh, Is Susan frozen for everyone?
Yes.
Okay,
Susan, if you can hear us, you've lost us.
we might.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
There we go.
yes.
She's back.
Okay, so the speed humps are not going up North End. They're going from the Melbourne route into Meldreth toward the station. And that's as far as that measure goes. And there's Meldreth Parish Councillor here who can tell you more about the 20-mile-an-hour scheme, which was is actually a separate scheme, and it's coming in. It's going to be introduced soon. But I just wanted to say, in terms of evidence that 20-mile-an-hour that speed limit reductions have an effect, they are now all around us. I mean, there's one relatively new in Bassingbourn that I'm most familiar with because it's newer than the one in Melbourne. It came in before, and there is evidence there that there has been a small reduction in speed, but without any physical measures at all. And I would maybe make the comment that, of course, perfection is elusive. There is a choice between zones and blanket coverage, and there are pluses and minuses. And in Bassingbourn, where the coverage is not a blanket coverage, you have to remember when the speed limit changes. So in some ways, if you're trying to establish a culture of driving more slowly, the blanket, this is a 20-mile-an-hour village, that kind of message is a different one. And of course, we now have Orwell, and I believe Sheppreth is keen on a 20. So it seems to me a cultural, it's a change in the way we think about how we use the roads. But I won't answer the question. I think Adam Bostanciu here can tell you more about the Meldreth 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, if that's so right for me to finish up with someone.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I was just going to basically echo some of what Susan said. So they're separate schemes, the Greenway and the Meldreth 20-mile-per-hour proposals or plans. And this scheme that we're on the call on for now won't really affect North End, so there won't be any speed humps at North End. But if it's helpful, I'm more than happy to talk you through, as part of Meldreth Parish Council, what the plans are in Meldreth, and I guess also what some of the thinking behind them is. And so if you want to, you could get in touch with me via the parish clerk in Meldreth, and we can have a chat about this or an email exchange.
Wonderful. I'm conscious it's 7:59 by my clock, and we're scheduled for an 8 p.m. finish. But I'm happy to kind of take any final thoughts over kind of the next 5 minutes if there was any further follow-up that anyone wanted to add. Yes, go on, Christine. Oh, just come off.
Yeah, one final point really is that is it not possible to arrange it such that you can get the vehicles to shed their speeds before they come into the village, certainly from Sheppreth to North End, because there's quite a good straight stretch of road there. I think if you could put a chicane in there, it would be very good, because you could get the majority of the speed off before they enter the village, and I think that's probably going to be more effective than speed ramps. That's it. So I've had my say now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Harry, was there anything you wanted to come back on that? Or
I think, I mean, it's about the consistency through the village. So, the approach to the chicane will be that people will slow to go through the chicane, only to then speed up again once they're clear of the chicane and they can see that there's an open road. The point again about the speed humps themselves and the spacing is that you're maintaining an end-to-end consistent 20-mile-per-hour speed, as opposed to you've cleared it off at the entrance to the village, but then all they'll do is they will then continue to pick up speed throughout the rest of the route. So you know, I understand what you're saying, but in terms of the of trying to reduce that speed, the gateway, you know, the signage itself is basically telling people to slow down. So actually, if they're not slowing down when they're seeing the 20-mile-per-hour zone, then that's even more of a reason to have your physical measures in place, and that those are kind of consistent throughout the village. The idea is that what we're wanting to do is just, as Councillor van der Ven referred to, is we're trying to create better, safer, more tolerant spaces for for everybody, and it's not just about reducing the speed, it's also about improving the area and improving the safety of people using the carriageway.
Thank you, Kerry. So I think we'll bring the meeting to a close here, but just to recap, and thank you all for joining this evening. All feedback we would like to kind of receive from this will be through the TRO process. So the link to that and how to kind of provide your feedback is all on the GCP Melbourne Greenway webpage. The plans that we've discussed tonight are also online. Alternatively, hard copies are available from Melbourne and Meldreth Parish Council. Please do get in touch with us via email or via telephone, the details of which are in the PowerPoint, and this will all be available online from tomorrow. So please do get in touch with us if there's anything further that occurs to you. The TRO will be live over the next 3 weeks. So we're asking for feedback by midnight on the 23rd of March. So thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.